I'm King Lincoln. This week I wanted to talk about music games, the rhythm genre, and my love of Harmonix, a company at the heart of it. If you don't already know the name of Harmonix, this is the team who made Frequency and Amplitude, two of the best games on the PS2. They made the absolutely fantastic Dance Central, as well as Fantasia Music Evolved, and okay, yeah, they also made Guitar Hero and Rock Band. Those are the games that everyone will know them for, and sure, they started both of those franchises and dominated gaming with them. But they also have so much talent and made so many different games, it's a shame they aren't known outside of those two titles. So as I said, I picked up FUSER, Harmonix's newest game, because I wanted to talk about my love of these music games and really the rhythm genre. Unfortunately, FUSER instead is better to highlight a lot of the problems these games have. Before we dive in, I want to quickly say I'm going to try to make this video entertaining like always, but it might be a little bit hard. Almost every game that I'll be showing this week is based on the music it produces, music that I honestly don't want to risk playing because, well, copyright strikes. You know, YouTube in the last couple years. And I'll eventually be talking about my taste in music, so you can of course look forward to the comment section, which many people will be telling me how horrible my taste in music is. Fun times. This video isn't intended as a full review, but let's focus on FUSER for just a moment. What is Harmonix's newest game about? It's essentially a DJ simulator. Players get 4 decks and can play music tracks from various songs on each of these decks. You might want to take the beat from Bad Guy, throw in the vocals to Born This Way, the keyboard from Satisfaction, and then drop some Never Gonna Give You Up, because why not rickroll the audience? And don't worry, I'm even afraid of doing that. Essentially, you're going to be mixing music to create new songs, and honestly, FUSER does what it says. After a little bit. You see, FUSER's biggest problem is that not everything is unlocked just by buying the game. Players get some songs, with many more unlocked by earning in-game currency by leveling up, and okay, that is okay. I'm perfectly fine with that. However, the musical instruments and effect systems, as well as the base tutorial of the game, are unlocked in the campaign. The fact you have to play through a tutorial isn't bad, but having to play through an 8-hour campaign to unlock stuff is a little rough, though it is a bit par for the course in the rhythm genre. FUSER's campaign, though, shows the limitations of the genre. I could probably spend more than 5 minutes on this, but the biggest issue is how the campaign works. You're given both goals by the story and requests from random people. However, the campaign is done as a score attack instead of a creative pursuit. Satisfy more goals and requests, drop the music on the downbeat or special pickups, and you'll do well and get, 5 stars, hopefully. You can also fail the campaign because if the audience gets particularly annoyed, you can get kicked off the stage, but honestly, that's very hard to do unless you're actively trying, especially because there's no difficulty settings here. But the real problem with the campaign is it's a stale corporate environment. You're told what to do and when to do it, but none of it, the scores, the action, the crowd, is really caring about your actual music. If you change the song every beat on the downbeat, you'll do better than letting a very good mix play for quite a while. The problem is, FUSER is both unable to tell the player if their music sounds good, nor is it interested in telling them how to create good music. It's just following the rules and you'll earn a score, and it's just like it's beating the creativity out of the player for those 8 hours. What an absolute shame. At least in Rock Band and Frequency, players are rewarded with music when they're doing well, and Rock Band is simulating playing, guitar, drums, and singing with plastic instruments. Sadly though, I don't have my instruments anymore, so we'll probably be seeing more Frequency here. The thing is, once players get beyond the campaign, FUSER is actually really good. It's creative, it has a lot of tools, and hopefully it will spark interest in some people's passion, so they might go out and learn how to mix for real. Players can actually upgrade to something like Ableton Live or Traktor Pro, neither of which actually costs that much more than the game, and can produce music that you can share yourself, or potentially one day actually DJ events with. But there's actually something else going on with FUSER, Rock Band, and a lot of Harmonix works that kind of bothers me. FUSER is set up to be very social, and you can actually play with other people. You can mix cooperatively and share the stage, you can battle head-to-head, and you can actually enter events. Also, you can vote on the previous week events so you hear other people's mixes. I heard this song, and I actually liked it quite a bit. It was someone mixing Apache pretty heavily, but I like Apache by the Sugar Hill Gang. Why haven't I dropped this record myself multiple times, especially with that great beat? Oh, it's DLC. FUSER released in November of 2020, which was 3 months ago as I'm making this video. In just those 3 months, there's already 78 pieces of DLC content that is just songs. Each song ranges from $1.99 to $2.99, and there's actually a VIP version of the game that costs an extra $30 for 25 of those songs. I mean, just in general, this is a ton of content. To buy all the DLC here, you're talking about $150. This isn't a game where you buy the $60 version and be satisfied. It's clear that Harmonix is hoping that people keep shelling out for new songs to keep mixing. It seems most of the top-rated mix have some DLC in it because, well, they're fresh and new songs. People raged pretty hard against Evolve when it came out because they were saying it was a platform for DLC. But these rhythm games are going in the exact same direction, and it's getting very extreme. Rock Band was extremely popular back in the day, but you can see where their mindset is now. When kickstarting the PC version of Rock Band 4, they made a special effort to call out the 1,700 DLC tracks ready to buy. 1,700, I want to make that clear. And that number is actually closer to 2,000. And by the way, that Kickstarter failed, so don't go looking for the PC version of the game. Honestly, I'd probably own it if I was given the option. Of course, part of all of this is music selection, and Frequency was a pretty good game way back in 2001. It's about 20 years old now. But what made it special wasn't the ultra-famous songs, even if Ex-Girlfriend by No Doubt was on there. It had a great techno soundtrack that broadened most players' musical tastes, as long as they can, of course, accept synthpop. But to appeal to the widest audience, rhythm games have stopped making interesting and eclectic song lists and have moved towards what's popular at the moment to get the most fans. The interesting and unique genres are now being replaced by selections to get the most people excited for the game. And I can't help but look at FUSER's list and think this is the most popular, yet generic music that they could find. All-Star by Smash Mouth? Really? There was actually a requesting game. Someone asked me to play their favorite song, All-Star, and I was laughing so hard I had to restart the level. This just feels soulless, like it's a game specifically designed to get people to shell out money to buy DLC, but also the music here is to appeal to the most people at just the lowest level. Going back to what I was saying about the campaign, it feels like the music here was chosen by similar criteria. Not what was impressive or worked best for mixing like Apache would, but rather what would satisfy some goal or request from the corporate offices. That's not even mentioning that while most of the music here is good, everything from the last 20 years lacks a timeless quality and will slide down the popularity charts as new music is created. And while FUSER has some really interesting gameplay and excellent social experience, it just depresses me now, and it kind of is a perfect example of why I'm pulling away from the rhythm genre. But don't worry, all is not lost. You see, there are other options out there. While FUSER has become the way for the RIAA to sell music to people, it's not the only choice out there. Back in the early 2000s, I was heavily into DDR, or Dance Dance Revolution. And that's an expensive hobby, but it's also one that's limited by what machines are near you and how often you can get to the arcade. Even in Boston, the main DDR machine people played on was at an arcade at MIT, and that was only one mix. The good news, though, is there's another option in the form of Stepmania. Stepmania is a video game that plays the same as DDR, and it's an excellent engine. When you get Stepmania, it only has 3 songs, but you can load your own step files and simulators, as well as get your own pads and everything else. There's also OS, which I'm probably saying wrong. It's spelled OSU exclamation point. This is a simulator for the Oden franchise, the most famous in America being Elite Beat Agents, but also has modes similar to Taiko no Tatsunju, and also another that plays like Bimani or Beatmania, which was a keyboard simulator. It also has this strange Catch the Fruit game, which actually makes me laugh a lot. Both Stepmania and OS lets you load custom files, and listen, this becomes a gray area very fast, but both games are a bit important because they aren't about what song is the most popular on the radio, but instead what plays the best. Much of my favorite music came out of playing the original DDR and Stepmania, where I found out about the genres of super Eurobeat and happy hardcore. OS actually has featured artists that they've partnered with, including my current favorite DJ, Searle. The thing is, I probably wouldn't find out about either of these genres if it wasn't for DDR and Stepmania. Without the ability to load my files, I also wouldn't be able to play music that actually meant something to me. Even games like Beat Saber, which is completely awesome, feels very limited until you load custom files, and my family actually played Beat Saber for hours just finding new songs we wanted to try out. Hearing music that matters to you enhances the experience, but the biggest problem is getting games that have music you care about in them, not just the approved music list of the record labels. A big issue, though, with custom files is you are at the mercy of whoever's making those step files, beat maps, or custom levels. The quality level of the custom files will, of course, vary, but that's also part of the fun of trying out tons of new tracks because there's a bit of pride to people who excel at creating these files. Though at the same time, the idea is if you want to make your own level for some song you love, you're fully able to and can make those steps anything you want to dance to. Of course, I feel the need to mention that all three of these games are completely legal, but the files most people will play with them, and the idea of custom files are, like I said, it's a bit of a gray area at best, and probably not as gray as most people would have you believe. While Searle is a feature artist who does support OS, many artists probably do not. But that's of course a discussion for another day. I don't want to talk about emulators or old games today, but I think I will in a future video. So apparently we now have two choices, the RIAA approved game and the back alley engines. Are there any other options? Before we go on, there is one thing I want to bring up. When I was younger and just sitting in the back of the car on a long drive, I would look out the window and think about driving along to my music that I was listening to at the time, moving along the sound waves, doing insane tricks off the hills. The music would just become the level for my imaginary experience. Visualizers existed back then, everyone had one with Winamp, but no one made a game where you could play your own music your own way. And it's been a long time, but there's one series that actually tries to bring this dream to life. Audiosurf and Audiosurf 2. Now these games try something a bit different, but they allow the player to play their music. Your music helps define the level and the track of the game, and you're able to ride along it and... truthfully, I don't know. I'll be honest, I dislike Audiosurf, and now that I've seen Audiosurf 2, I feel like this is a great proof of concept that someone else probably needs to run with. The thing is, while Audiosurf tries to do something with the music, the result never feels right, and while you're moving to the beat, your vehicles stop and start suddenly, and in general, it's just not a very fun game. What's important is that Audiosurf is based on MP3s, and you can get those MP3s any ways you want, preferably legally, of course, perhaps ripping CDs yourself or buying files online. Granted, in 2021, MP3s aren't exactly the normal way to get music, but at least the concept here is very good, and while I'm not a huge fan of Audiosurf itself, I feel like I have to bring it up because conceptually this is close to what I think will change the genre forever. I've actually struggled a bit with this topic because I don't have a big bombshell here. I don't have a game that does everything right, and I don't have the solution. I'm sorry about that. It feels like this is a problem that's yet to be fully solved. Whether we need to wait for machine learning to figure out what sounds good or plays good, or someone to take the Audiosurf idea and make it into the next big thing, it's becoming a waiting game. But you know what? There is one last series that I do want to bring up. It's perhaps the game that's closest to what I think this genre needs to be. Beat Hazard and Beat Hazard 2 do something interesting. It listens to the music playing on your system, analyzes it, and then generates gameplay based on it. So whatever type of music you're listening to will give you a different experience. What's important with Beat Hazard, though, is that the source of the music is no longer important. If you have MP3s, you can just play them. If you want to listen to internet radio, it's available in-game. Beat Hazard 2 actually opens up links in Spotify for special daily and lightning events. It's a game that tracks the signature of each song, so if you and another person play the same song, you'll actually be both ranked on the same leaderboard. And this is incredible because we've divorced the music from the medium that it comes from. The game no longer has to care how you get the music, just what music is playing. The game sounds like what I've been asking for, and as I said, it is a bit close, but Beat Hazard actually lacks major changes with the music. If you play a hard bass track versus a classic composition, it will create a different experience and different speeds to the game, but for the most part, your music is only one input to the game. It also could use an integration with Spotify or some other music source so that you can play it all in-game, but that might be asking for too much. But yes, Beat Hazard also isn't a true rhythm game, it's an action game that uses music to enhance its visualizations. Though, Beat Hazard is actually so much fun to play, and the reason isn't that it's some deep system, but rather it lets me jam out to my music when playing a good game. And that music does add at least a little bit of the experience to that game. That's what I'm really looking for. But I feel like this is where we're approaching the third act of a story. In the first act, we've proved that we can play in time with curated music. Games like Parappa the Rapper, Bust a Groove, and even the recent Crypt of the Necrodancer are massive and work well. Then we got to the chance to emulate the musicians in a gamified way in Act 2. Whether that was dancing or playing Guitar Hero and Rock Band, I think though we're kind of past that point. Now what we need is the ability to let the user choose their own music and give a unique experience based on the attributes of that song. I think we're actually kind of close to this, as in, this generation of gaming, someone should be able to crack it. But I honestly don't think we're there just yet. So that's what I have for this week. So let me ask you all, what's your favorite music game or genre? I've always had songs where I've thought, oh, man, I really want to play a game with this as the background track. That's what Beat Hazard gets me. So what song makes you say that? As always, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. You know, the usual YouTube stuff that I have to ask you for. And of course, try to share this with someone. I would really appreciate that. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I'm going to actually be popping up my video from a couple weeks ago about open world games and why they tend to be a little bit boring. And I go into a little of my game dev background there if you haven't seen it. I also throw up another video for you to check out. Until then, I'm King Link, and thanks for watching.